All right, without further ado, I want to welcome in our panel. We start with our White House correspondent, Emerald Robinson, political analyst and Project 21 member Donna Jackson joining us for the first time this morning. Donna, good morning. Former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates is here, and former special assistant to President Donald Trump, and a Newsmax contributor, Andrew Giuliani, with us as well. Andrew, good to see you. I'd like to start with a soundbite from defense attorney Eric Nelson. So this is Derek Chauvin's defense attorney. He was talking about the cause of death, according to the defense yesterday during his opening statement. Take a listen.
And this will ultimately be another significant battle in this trial. What was Mr. Floyd's actual cause of death? The evidence will show that Mr. Floyd died of a cardiac arrhythmia that occurred as a result of hypertension, his coronary disease, the ingestion of methamphetamine and fentanyl, and the adrenaline flowing through his body, all of which acted to further compromise an already compromised heart.
Wouldn't normally do this, but I'm going to today just because it's interesting to hear them side by side. Here is the lead prosecutor, Jerry Blackwell. He is representing the state in this case, and he says he's talking about when George Floyd initially became unconscious when he was under Derek Chauvin's knee. Take a listen.
So we learned here that Mr. Floyd at some point is completely passed out. Mr. Chauvin continues on as he had, knee on the neck, knee on the back. You'll see he does not let up and he does not get up. For the remaining, as you can see, 3 minutes and 51 seconds. During this period of time, you will learn that Mr. Chauvin is told that they can't even find the pulse of Mr. Floyd. You'll learn he's told that twice.
All right, so Rick Gates, we'll start with you. Do you think that the coronavirus and some of the restrictions in the courtroom there, do they play, is that an advantage for one side or the other? I know, defense attorneys are typically, especially in cases like this, think about Johnny Cochran, very theatrical. They walk over to the jury box. They make eye contact with the jurors. In this case, a lot of that is taken out or restricted because of the pandemic.
It'll absolutely have an impact. I think most people forget that when you're inside the courtroom, when the case finally goes to trial, it's usually not about the truth or the facts, but it's about a legal process.
Right.
And yesterday was a great example of, I think a lot of people have forgotten all the facts. I didn't realize there's 50,000 pieces of evidence that are going to be used. The cause of death, is a primary question. I think we tend to get caught up in the headlines and only take bits and pieces. But now the entirety of the case is going to be on trial, and it's absolutely going to affect, I think, more the defense, attorneys, but the prosecutors as well will be, I think, very, attempt to, get across their key messages. But no doubt it's going to be interesting for the, first trial in Minneapolis, but also the idea that, it's just kind of, recreated this picture of how trials go, because it's certainly not going to be a normal trial.
Donna, good morning. Were you surprised at all that the Minneapolis State Attorney Jerry Blackwell played that full video? Apparently one juror had not seen that full 9-minute, 29-second video, and he kept emphasizing 9:29 and how that's going to play a big role throughout the trial. I mean, you watch the video, it's so compelling. It's probably the best piece of evidence that the prosecution, does have against Derek Chauvin in this case.
Well, I'm not surprised. I expected them to do that, and they'll probably play it over and over again. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is what's happening outside of the courtroom as well. We know that they have crowds out there. We know that for 7 months there's been rioting, looting. I think that I'm afraid that fear might play into the outcome of this case. And the most important thing, I think, right now is making sure we have a fair trial, because we don't want to set a dangerous precedent where mob rule can influence what happens inside of that courtroom. But I think that you'll see over and over again this type of the videos and things like that to bring that emotion into the trial. And I hope that we use the evidence and not the emotions of what's been going on for the last 7
Yeah,
months.
that's a great point. I didn't realize this until yesterday, but there is an autonomous zone in downtown Minneapolis where there are no police officers allowed in. There's crime there every single night. I think we're going to see violent protests, maybe riots, no matter what the verdict is. But I'll tell you what, if Derek Chauvin is found innocent a month from now, forget about it. It's going to be a repeat of last summer, maybe even worse.
Well, there's already lots of left-wing activists posting that cities will burn if he is not found guilty.
Oh, yeah, Emerald. I would not want to be a juror because those identities always leak out. Matter of fact, they leak out every single time. I want to talk about what's happening in the state of Georgia right now. This voter law passed last Thursday. There's been a ton of misinformation about the law. The Masters are being pressured, the golf tournament in Augusta, Georgia, which kicks off, I believe, on Thursday, April the 8th. Andrew, I noticed your tie this morning, so I'll direct the first question to you. I know that you are you're an excellent golfer. The Masters will not buckle, but I'll tell you what, the MLB All-Star Game, which is happening in Atlanta over the summer, Major League Baseball, I could see them shifting the game out of Atlanta very soon, possibly even today. But I don't see the Masters changing anything.
Yeah, it's a good point. I want to just circle back to one thing that Donna actually said there, which she's absolutely right. When you watch the video, it just brings so much emotion, and it's very, very difficult to think that these jurors are going to be able to go in and really get that emotion out of their head and actually think of the facts. So I think it's an absolutely fantastic point. I mean, I got emotional just watching the video again yesterday. I mean, there's so much anger and that I have there. But going on to Georgia, you're right. This Masters tie I brought into the office a couple weeks ago. I brought my ties in and I figured, okay, this is for Masters week. I'm going to wear this. But after seeing what they were trying to do and protests were trying to do to Augusta National, to Delta Airlines, to American Airlines, to Major League Baseball, I said today is the day to wear it. When you think about all the economic, all the money that the Masters ends up creating for the Augusta National for the Augusta community, I mean, it really ends up helping sparking jobs. Same thing with Delta Airlines. Same thing with Major League Baseball. It would not surprise me if you see a buckle from Major League Baseball or you see a buckle, let's say, somewhere from the NFL, considering how they've actually handled themselves over the last couple of years.
Emerald, what about CNN?
Yeah.
You know, first I have to say,
Boycott
Andrew,
CNN.
you have quite the tie collection. Yeah, that you brought quite a tie collection. Well, you know, CNN's okay because they're on the right side of things, right? It doesn't matter if they stay in there.
This law fascinates me, Rick, because there's been misinformation about some of the language in the law. We saw yesterday that, well, geez, you know, you're not going to be able to give people water waiting in line to vote. Couple things. I've lived in 5 different states, voted in 4 different states across this country, waited in the state of Missouri in 2016 for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Hot day, wasn't concerned about water. Polling locations, Rick, can still serve water. It's up to them. They can have, you know, a Poland Springs dispenser. They can have people handing out water. And people that want to give out water, the public, they can do so. They just have to be 150 feet away from the voters. The point of this is so somebody can't walk over with, you know, say a Trump or a Clinton or a Bush T-shirt on and hand you a bottle of water because it could impact your vote. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, there's endless data to suggest that when people go to a polling station, very rarely is there something that immediately changes their mind as they're already there at the location. So, you know, a lot of these questions, a lot of the time is being spent on ideas of, can we help people? Can we give them water? Can we assist people, you know, into the polling station? I think we're missing the entirety of the point of election reform and what we're really trying to do. And that's make sure that there are free and fair elections across the country. And what's happening in Georgia, by the way, is going to happen in, you know, all the other 50 states because every state has to go through this process. And then on the side, as a new addition, we have the federal government looking at, you know, reforming elections as well. So there's going to be a whole cadre of other items like this coming up. Every state legislature is responsible for fixing those election laws. So every state legislature is going to come up with kind of its own rules. So it's going to be interesting to see what other categories they throw in there.
All right, little underreported story yesterday. The eviction moratorium will be extended. I want to play you White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki addressing that yesterday. Take a listen.
The moratorium was scheduled to expire on March 31st and is now extended through June 30th. The president is committed to supporting renters and small landlords through the COVID-19 crisis. Essential to that effort is, of course, the American Rescue Plan, which delivers an additional $21.5 billion in emergency rental assistance to help millions of families keep up on rent and remain in their homes.
Donna, I know you've been a political analyst for a long time. People see this headline. I did the same thing. I saw it yesterday, and you think to yourself, okay, fantastic. If you're a renter, you get to stay in your place and not worry about paying the bills. My problem is most states now will have had this in place for 13 months once we get to the end of April. I know a lot of people that are landlords that own 1, 2, 3 units, and they haven't been paid in 13 months. At some point, we have to start thinking about them as well.
Absolutely. I'm concerned about property owners and property rights in this country. You know, that homeowners and property owners have a net wealth of 26 to 35% higher of those that rent. And one of the things we need to do is protect property rights. Now, we wouldn't have to have this memorandum if states would do their governors and states would do their jobs and reopen up their economy so that people can pay their rent and have jobs. But they don't want that. They want this political climate that says that we're going to micromanage and control your life,
right,
and we're going to make it look bad so that you can be more dependent on the government. And I think that's the bad thing that's happening right now.
Important to know, too.
We need the states to open.
Yeah, a lot of people are back to work as well. You know, unemployment numbers aren't where they were, say, 10 months ago, you know, when they were at an all-time high last April and May. Unemployment rates have been coming down. And I think there's about 9,500,000 people unemployed.
What we've been doing, though, is
working.
incentivizing this notion that you don't have to be responsible.
Yeah.
When you have things like this, where you extend these types of rights, then people that have the money use it for other things.
Yeah, and what about the guy that worked?
Being responsible.
No, Don, that's a great point. We got to leave it there. We'll pick this back up at the top of the hour. But I saw an interview with somebody yesterday. He owns one home, and he rents it, and that's how he makes his money, and he's in his 60s, and he hasn't been paid in 10 months. What about this guy who's done the right thing all his life, worked hard, bought a place, saved up, and now he doesn't have a source of income because his tenant has a moratorium in paying. It's tragic. All right, panel, we'll leave it there. We'll see you guys again at the top of the hour.